It's Monday. Easter is over. But I'm going to be eating ham all week long.
Mm-hmm.
Leftovers tonight, and then probably transitioning into something else.
Put it in the freezer. Ham freeze is good.
Half of it's already in the freezer.
Oh, okay. There you go.
7-pound ham, cut in half, served up maybe half of that half yesterday, so there's another half left.
It's only 4 people, right?
Oh, yeah. But there was a ton of other food. I mean, I always cook for an army. That's how it works. That's what happens when you grow up working in restaurants. You have a hard time scaling it back.
Mm-hmm.
Such is life.
A lot of rain yesterday.
Yeah, it kind of moved in the early part of the afternoon, maybe around 1, 2 o'clock, and then it just kind of stuck around. And, yeah, no thunder and lightning as far as I know, unlike last week when we got some thunderstorms, but definitely seemed to rain pretty much all afternoon and all night, and even into the morning. But it seems like it's going to clear up and be in the mid-50s today and up near 70 the next few days.
I think there's still a chance, that it's, it rain on and off today, but then it's supposed to head on out. It's supposed to head on out.
We will, of course, recap our Easter weekends. Look ahead as well. Talk about screens in your home. Not your window screens, but television, phone screens, all that stuff.
Electronic.
Bad news, happy music later on. Also, the friggin' sports. Get to our daily check-ins. You can find all of our contact info online at rockmornings.com. You can sign up for contests there as well. And, of course, listen to the show live and check out the daily podcast. Music in a bit from Nothing More and 3 Days Grace. Don't go anywhere.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene on your rock station.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene, and the big news this morning, of course, the Pope passing away during the overnight, 88 years old. Pope Francis, a reformer from Argentina, dying at the age of 88. Cardinal Kevin Farrell announcing the Pope's death in a statement released by the Vatican during the early hours of this morning. This is at 7:35 this morning. The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. According to the Cardinal, he taught us to live the values of the gospel with faithfulness, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and the marginalized. His body will be put on display in an open coffin in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. But yeah, the Pope dying at the age of 88. Had a host of health issues, of course, battling double lung infection, right?
Ever since the beginning of February, basically. Yeah. But he did...
he got out
yesterday, even. Easter Sunday. I know he did a blessing, and
it's a big day for the Pope. But yeah, he's passed on at the age of 88. 4 Wisconsinites dying in a plane crash in central Illinois over the weekends. Saturday, around 10:16 in the morning, a Cessna C-180G airplane hit power lines and crashed into a field in Trilla, not far from the Coles County Memorial Airport, according to the National Transportation Safety Board. 4 people from Wisconsin, including 2 men and 2 women, dying in the crash. Victims were from Menominee. According to the Illinois State Police, the plane was returning from Nashville, Tennessee when the crash occurred. The Coles County coroner releasing the names of the victims yesterday. The victims, all 4 from Menominee, were Ross Nelson, Ramey Rundle, Courtney Moreau, and Michael Moreau. Tragedy there in a plane crash in Illinois. They're still investigating, obviously. Real ID, you got yours yet?
Yes. Everybody in my house has theirs.
Good idea, especially if you plan on getting on a plane.
May 5th, isn't it?
7th, I believe.
7th, okay.
Yeah, May 7th. The Real ID enforcement begins on May 7th, but the countdown is on now. Less than a few weeks from today, all U.S. travelers must have a Real ID and be compliant to get on a domestic flight. This is not your license. This is not a passport. This is a Real ID. Obviously, a very busy time for the DMV as people go in and get these Real IDs.
At least our experience was relatively easy and quick to go through the process. But you do have to have, all your paperwork and be ready for that.
Yeah, Real ID enforcement begins on May 7th. By that day, the Department of Homeland Security says U.S. travelers must be Real ID compliant to board domestic flights and access certain federal facilities. That means you must have a Real ID driver's license or ID card or a passport. Obviously, you can go to the DMV or go to their website for more information about the Real ID. Give it a Google, but if you are planning on getting on a flight.
Yeah, and I had all
America.
my stuff when I went to that. I had my Social Security card, birth certificate, mail with my address, all of that stuff. My regular, photo ID, my driver's license. The hardest part for me, I got turned away, was that I didn't have my marriage license. And since my last name didn't match that on my birth certificate or Social Security card, so I had to go get that and return on a different date. So just keep that in mind. That was the most challenging part, was, locating that and remembering to take the marriage certificate.
Feels like
if your name is different. If your
name
name
is a bit of an overreach. I've been alive for 50-something years. I got a license. I've had a bunch of them over the years. I've been living in this house for 30 years. How much proof do you need that it's me and that I am who I say I am?
Well, like I said, I had my regular driver's license.
Kind of ridiculous.
And then I had those other forms, but the marriage license was just to remember that. If your name is different, then you're going to need that.
Well, no, all these other ones say you are who you are, but if you don't have that marriage license, no.
Well, and with you changing your last name, you might have to have that documentation.
I'm not getting one.
Okay.
They can kiss my ass. They can kiss my ass. Not getting a real ID. North Face has announced a recall of its popular women's Chalista V mid-waterproof boots due to a defect that poses a risk of falling. So it's not that
they leak and your
foot will get wet. It'll be that you could fall down.
You trip and
from
fall.
Wearing shoes. The North Face company stating that the hook of one boot can catch on the lace of the other boot, potentially causing
oh my gosh, I see
people wearing the boots to fall. So far, 15 people have been hurt, according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and about 15,200 boots that were sold in the U.S. and 5,900 in Canada. The boots sold between September of 24 and January of 25. Customers are advised to stop using the boots and contact the North Face for further instructions.
Yeah.
Don't use the boots.
Well, I see what they're saying. You're walking like this, and then the hook gets on the
Swoosh,
thing, and then
swoosh.
your feet stay together, and you're falling
You
down.
get tangled up. I don't want to live in a world where my boots get tangled up.
No.
I want to walk freely without my laces and my hooks getting caught. Last week, we had the Travis Shamockery of these celebrities, I use that term loosely, going into space, and that term is also being used loosely, and they're getting killed on the internet. Wendy's went after Katy Perry almost immediately. Now she's threatening legal action. Everybody else thought it was just stupid. Gayle King and Katy Perry have been defending themselves in the media. Nobody minded the astronauts. Like, everybody was cool with the actual 2 astronauts that went up there, but just these rich, pointless human beings going up in a capsule. You know what I mean?
Point, but we didn't necessarily need to see that, and it's the money, I think, that everybody was. So, is somebody else going up now?
No, but the oldest serving U.S. astronaut returning from space on his 70th birthday. Spacecraft carrying American Donald Petit and Russians Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner landing in Kazakhstan on Sunday, and there's pictures of the American Donald Petit getting carried by people. Obviously, all those months up in space can affect and at his age, 68, 69, 70 years old. But he's America's oldest serving astronaut, and he touched down on Earth on his 70th birthday. Donald Petit, along with 2 Russian cosmonauts, had been on a 7-month mission to the ISS, the International Space Station. Not sure if they were able to, wave hi to Katy Perry as she went into space as well and did some experiments.
They passed each other on the interstate? Is that what you're saying?
Obviously not.
On the space interstate?
The spacecraft carrying the Russian cosmonauts along with Mr. Petit landing in Kazakhstan yesterday. The Russians' space station or space agency, Jesus effing Christ.
Hello.
Said it's,
hello, mouth.
Well, it's a lot of chitcha. Its deorbiting and descent to Earth were normal. The crew's 7-month science mission started on the September 11th in 2024. Orbited the Earth 3,520 times.
Again.
Over the 220 days in space.
And again.
Look, kids, Big Ben Parliament.
Here she comes again.
But yeah, the oldest American astronaut, real astronaut, not stupid-ass Katy Perry and dumbass Gayle
real
King.
astronaut.
A real astronaut, a real American hero. Mm-hmm. Not those 2 idiots. Up in space for 7 months and now back on land.
Amazing. Amazing.
Rock mornings with Brian and Gene. Cloudy to start today, but it looks like the rain has kind of come to an end, at least in our area. Might see some more showers tomorrow with a high in the mid-60s, up into the 70s by Wednesday.
I saw that. Looks really good for Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah. Outdoor activities later this week.
Get to some 3 days grace after Angel Song from Nothing More and David Draymond.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find them online at rockmornings.com.
Rockfest music from 3 days grace. I Hate Everything About You. It's coming up, man. July. Be here before you know it. I was just texting with Wade over the weekend. Going to talk to him at some point in the near future. Not a lot to talk about. I mean, the schedule's out. The tickets are for sale. The camping's almost gone. But, yeah, we'll get Wade on the phone at some point and talk about
There's new stuff, I'm sure.
The new stuff you can see this year at Rockfest. Head up to rock-fest.com for more info and to get your tickets. Looking forward to it this July. The Brewers basically stole every single base in the history of man yesterday. I don't know if you caught this, but they beat the A's on Friday 5-3. They lost 3-1 on Saturday, and then they beat them yesterday 14-1.
I did not see that.
Yeah, obviously people were kind of busy with Easter stuff, and there was plenty of other things going on yesterday with NBA and NHL playoffs, but the Brewers over the A's 14-1 yesterday.
2 runs have scored. The third goes Contreras. It's a 2-run single. Rhys Hoskins with a 4 RBI Easter Sunday to cap off an incredible homestand. Hoskins has just made this game 14-1 in the 7th.
The Brewers stole 6 bases in the first inning, the most by any team in a single inning since at least 1961, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. The Brewers had all 9 of their steals in the first 4 innings to shatter the team's 33-year-old single-game record.
Was the other team not out there? Were they not? Were they?
They must have had some info on the catcher or something. I don't know. The Brewers will be in San Francisco tonight for the first of 4 against the Giants, 8:45 on the MLB Network. Bucks got shellacked by the Pacers on Saturday, 117-98.
And that'll do it. Indiana takes game 1 of this best-of-7 series, 117-98, the final.
Game 2 of that series is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. It'll be on NBA TV. Also in the NBA yesterday, Oklahoma City Thunder put it on them. The Memphis Grizzlies didn't have a chance. They beat them by 51.
Is this the one I saw? Did they have, was it like 100 and some?
131-80.
Yeah.
They beat them by 51 points. 1-0 series lead there. The Celtics, of course, the defending NBA champions, opening up their title defense with a 103-86 win over the Orlando Magic. The Cavs, the number 1 seed in the East, they beat the Heat 121-100. They take a 1-0 series lead. And in the late game last night, the Golden State Warriors took care of the Rockets 95-85. Tonight, you've got Detroit at New York, 6:30 on TNT and True TV. Game 2 of that series, Knicks are up 1-0. Then you've got the Clippers at the Nuggets at 9 p.m., also on TNT and True TV. That's game 2 of that series with the Denver Nuggets up 1-0. On the ice this weekend in the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets beating the St. Louis Blues on Saturday 5-3 in game 1 of that series. And then the Avs beat the Stars on Saturday night 5-1. Yesterday, Carolina Hurricanes over the Devils 4-1. They've got a 1-0 series lead there. Toronto was up 1-0 in their series with the Ottawa Senators, thanks to a 6-2 drubbing yesterday. And meanwhile, the Vegas Golden Knights doubled up the Minnesota Wild 4-2 yesterday. They've got a 1-0 series lead there. You've got more games in the NHL tonight as the playoffs have begun. Montreal Canadiens at the Capitals, 6 p.m. on ESPN for game 1 of that series. Blues at the Jets, game 2 of that series at 6:30 on ESPN2. Colorado at Dallas at 8:30 on ESPN for game 2. And finally, the Edmonton Oilers at the LA Kings at 9 p.m. on ESPN2 for game 1 of that series.
No, it's not slowing down at all, is it? It's ramping up.
Ramping up, man. Yeah.
Between basketball and
NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball's well into its season. You've got the NASCAR regular season underway. They took a break this weekend from the Cup Series race because of Easter, but they did race the Xfinity and the trucks this weekend, and lots of spectacular crashes there as well. Sports and Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. We'll get to Some music in a bit from Volbeats, their latest. And if you need something, you can find us online at rockmornings.com.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene on your rock station.
They were three women blasted into space for an 11-minute mission. But suddenly, they were sucked into an endless orbit. Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and Gayle King are lost in space.
I hope they can see the unity that we modeled and replicate that and understand that we weren't just taking up space, we were making space for the future.
And camaraderie. We're doing this.
This was not a ride. This was a bona fide friggin' flight.
Don't miss unexciting episodes each week of three women who believe they're really important when they're really just lost in space.
Have y'all been to space? Have you been to space? Go to space.
They're getting everything they deserve. I got to be honest. I found this to be, whatever. There's so many things wrong with this world. This is just one of them. But
you would go if you could. You've talked before about how that's really interesting to you. And like, if it was given
but to act like you did something, like you made some sort of like historical thing happen. It's like, no, you paid a bunch of money to some guy and you floated up there and you were sort of in space, like in the little, part up at the top, and you were there for a couple of minutes, and then you get down here and you kiss the ground. It's just like, it's such bad optics. It's like when the celebrities were singing, what was it, Let It Be or whatever the hell it was during COVID, and they were, what's that Lennon song? Imagine. They were singing Imagine. Remember all of them? Gal Gadot, and it's like, oh, God, you guys are so disconnected from reality.
So
people can't buy like toilet paper, and you think that your stupid singing along song is going to change anything? It's going to make things better for people. Give me a friggin' break.
Well, so is this kind of like a ad for you two can buy a seat on this Virgin Enterprise thing?
Yeah, I think they're trying to showcase that it's safe. And that it can go up there, and if you want to experience weightlessness and be in space and say you went to space and you've got, it used to be, right, and forever, you had to be an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like dudes in their backyard were going up into space.
Now
dudes in their backyard are going up into space. So it's like, yeah. And dudes are going down to see the Titanic. Those guys, unfortunately, not as lucky. Not so much. But, yeah. I think it's a little bit of advertisement for the space brand or whatever.
You, too, could go feel weightlessness.
Yeah, and then kiss the ground and act like you saved the nation. Give me a friggin' break. These three, lost in space.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson.
Yeah.
Danger.
Ay. Watched a lot of sports this weekend, obviously.
Did you?
A lot of baseball, a lot of basketball, bunch of hockey. WrestleMania, watched a lot of that as well. Television today, the streaming premiere of The Return on Paramount Plus.
I am Odysseus' wife.
Odysseus is dead.
Not to me.
There was no king. He sailed to Troy years ago. Took the best men with him.
All year, suitors have been turning up, waiting for his widow to choose a new husband to be king.
Scoundrels, they're just here for your wealth.
Look at this island. A wasteland. Gangs of thugs terrifying the people.
They need me alive, at least until I choose my husband.
Ralph Fiennes, I think he pronounces his first name Rafe. I don't think it's Ralph. It's spelled Ralph, but anyways, he stars in a very gritty retelling of the legend of Odysseus.
All right.
The Trojan War, the whole 9 yards. Returns home unrecognizable 20 years after he left for the Trojan War to find that his wife and his son are being threatened by ambitious suitors who have set their eyes on his throne. In the trailer, it looked like he was naked a lot and also killed a lot of people. Very bloody in the trailer. It's called The Return, and it's on Paramount Plus today. Top 14 revealed on American Idol tonight on ABC. Over on NBC, The Voice, The Road to the Playoffs. So a special about the upcoming playoffs. The third season premiere of America's Most Wanted, the reboot of that tonight on Fox. Also new episodes of All-American, NCIS, and NCIS Origins. All of the late-night shows appear to be in repeats except for Kimmel. He's got Quinta Brunson, Chris Hayes, and Treaty Oak Revival, wherever the hell that is.
We watched part 1 on Friday night and part 2 last night, but it was the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh, yes, on Netflix.
Yeah.
And?
Well, a bunch of things. You know, I didn't. We started watching it on Friday, not having any idea that it was actually the 30th anniversary this weekend. It was on the 19th of April in 1995. So, I didn't realize. I mean, trying to remember back all the things, and I didn't realize how quickly everyone involved was apprehended. You know what I mean? Like Timothy was arrested within 3 days.
It was shortly after.
Yeah, it was just how quickly that all came to be, and that he was already under arrest, for other things, and then just looking at the footage and seeing how old
things were in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing to think how much further ahead we felt in the 90s than we were in the 80s, and now you look back at it 30 years later and you're like, Jesus Christ.
I think it was because a lot of the cars and stuff still were from the 80s, you know what I mean? So it even seemed older than it was because it was big, but it was, and just how god-awful that was. Horrific.
Yeah, we didn't watch a lot of TV. Friday night, we watched Murder at 1600. It was the Wesley Snipes movie about the murder in the White House. Dogs had gone in to get, Remy had gotten her stitches out. So Friday night we came home and I did some yard work and stuff on Friday in the afternoon, then made dinner, grilled out, and then we watched Murder at 1600. And then I went to bed pretty early. Saturday got up and took Remy to daycare because she needed to,
do that.
2 weeks of having, rest and relaxation while she recovered from her getting spayed. Had to get her some energy out. So took her to daycare and then spend all morning working on the front lawn and cleaning stuff up and all that crap. And then Saturday afternoon, we ended up going to my wife's cousin's house in Holman for a little non-traditional Easter get-together, bunch of Mexican food. It was good. Stayed for a little bit, and then we stopped downtown, had a couple of beers, and then went home and watched WrestleMania. A little bit of that, night 1 of WrestleMania. And then yesterday, got up and watched a little bit of TV, but her parents came over, and they went to church early in the morning, and I was busy making Easter dinner. So had Celtics game on, watched a little bit of the Red Sox game, watched some more WrestleMania, watched, didn't watch a lot of shows, watched a lot of sports this weekend.
That was the only one we watched, but and some sports yesterday, some basketball actually, part of the playoffs there. But yeah, I didn't intend to. We were flipping through, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's try. And then it locked me in. I mean, it sucked me in it starts out right, pretty much with the explosion and how awful all that was.
Wife also spent a significant amount of time on Reddit yesterday looking for dive bars in the Nashville area. So yeah. I had to remind her again. I'm like, I can appreciate all the planning. I thank you very much. It's very nice. But can we just, I don't want to be like every hour of every day of every minute of every second is planned out. Like, at least we have a list of things.
Yes,
we're not going to
get there or
just
maybe not.
Remember, we're not going to be able to do all this stuff. Like we can do some things, but let's also remember that it is some time off from work and maybe
we can also just have some pancakes.
Yeah. We'll see. She's very into the planning of things. But yeah, we leave next Wednesday early in the morning, get down there Wednesday afternoon, check into the hotel. She got all freaked out because I was texting with Phil from Wayland last week and, reminding him that we were coming down. And he asked me, he's like, oh, what hotel are you staying in? And I couldn't remember. So I asked my wife. And it's a Holiday Inn that's over by the ballpark, by the football field. And so I texted him back, and I said, oh, it's this Holiday Inn, whatever. And he's like, oh, we call that the Holiday Sin. And so I showed the text to my wife, and she's like, what does that mean? And I said, I don't know. He's probably just being funny. And she's like, does it mean that there's, drug dealers and dirty people over there? And I was like, I don't know. What did the Yelp? I'm like, you booked it. What did the Yelp reviews say? What did all the Google reviews? And she said, well, it got 4 stars. It looks nice. It's got a breakfast and everything. And I said,
just relax.
I said, it'll be fine. I'm sure he's just busting my balls. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. She's freaking out. I was like, that's what everybody does. You come up with funny nicknames for the places in town. You know what I mean? And yeah, we're going to hopefully hang out with those guys on Wednesday. They got some shows that they got to play over the weekend. So that's the plan. We'll see. Right now, Lincoln Park.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find them online at rockmornings.com.
That, of course, Lincoln Park was Somewhere I Belong on Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Cloudy start to the day, maybe some sun later on, and high of about 55.
Lots of rain. Lots of rain yesterday, lots of rain through this morning, and then eventually getting better this week.
Jim texting in earlier saying they won't just take a driver's license to board. And I said, not after May 7th. And he said, unreal. And I
That's
said,
been like... So
actually, Jim has been in Kuwait, so he's been a little busy. So, but
this
it is
started
actually real. It is real. It's not unreal. It's the real ID is what it's called.
Is this real life? Yeah. Well, they started this whole process at COVID, and then they extended and extended and extended and extended it. And now it's been 5 years, I believe, since they started all of this. But the real deadline now is coming up May 7th.
Yeah. So you don't have to have it if you don't want to get it. I'm not planning on getting it, but if you want to get
domestic air travel,
if you want to get on a domestic flight along with some federal facilities, not quite sure what those are, you'll need a real ID. You don't have to have it with you at all times, at least not yet.
Well, it basically is your driver's license.
I'm sure that's coming.
It's not different. It is your driver's license then. It's just the driver's license is now a real ID.
Right.
So you have to have it on you like your driver's license.
Sorry, Jim. That's the government for you. Ogre texting in saying space travel is just a really freaking expensive amusement park ride. Yeah, I mean, if you've got the money and you want to go up but like I don't need to hear about it whenever Katy Perry or some stupid celebrity goes up there. Who gives a rat's ass?
I think
and then come down and kiss the ground like you were up there for a friggin' month and a half. Give me a break. You're up there for like 10 minutes. You didn't do anything either. You just went up and came down. Not like you were piloting the ship.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to go through any kind of like rigmarole to become an astronaut.
It's one giant commercial for the Virgin Enterprises or whatever the hell it is.
And then you come back and you wonder why people are mad. It's like, that's because you're not attached to reality. You don't grasp the concept of reality. You live in some sort of fantasy land. But if you've got the money, you're a millionaire, billionaire, and you've always wanted to go to space and you have the option now. I just don't know if everybody needs to hear about it or cares about it. Well, good for you. Music in a bit from The Offspring, rockmornings.com to get in touch with us. All of our contact info right there on the website. And also don't forget to register for Workforce Wednesday while you're there, and also date night on Friday.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Start your day with Rock Mornings.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. That, of course, The Offspring. No Easter egg hunt at our house, but my wife's cousin had one in Holman at their house on Saturday. They have two young boys. And it was actually kind of funny because, I'm loud and I'm around maybe twice a year. So I don't see the kids every weekend like grandma and grandpa or whatever. But the older of the two boys, when we got there, walked in the door, got the cooler. Wife's got her purse. The baby had just woken up from a nap, so he's just sort of out of it. The older of the two boys was kind of standing there with mom and welcoming people as they come in the door, and it was, we showed up basically at the same time as everybody else, so there's a lot of activity.
A lot of loudness and things going on.
He had obviously just had a bath, or some of his hair was all wet and just combed
looking
in.
Good, looking sharp.
Yeah, looking sharp. And everybody's paying attention to the baby because the baby had the curls on fleek.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if kids say fleek anymore, but the curls were looking good. They were very curly. And so everyone's playing with the curls and pinching the cheek and rubbing the feet and all that stuff and trying to get the kid to react. And the baby was just, you could tell he was like, nah, bro, I just woke up. I'm not doing this right now. So I said to the older boy, I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? Happy Easter. Can I get a hug? Just
came in for the hug,
gave me one of these, put the arms out, and like everybody just like, oh,
yeah, gave you a
big hug for Uncle Brian. Yeah,
feeling very left out. He is with the baby, all the baby attention. Yeah. I'll take some.
So they had an Easter egg hunt at the house with the two boys. Mm-hmm. This was after the meal, and they also. It's so funny, man. They're not twins. They're I think a year or two apart.
But close in age.
But close enough that apparently the Easter basket had to be the exact same things, or else there would be some serious fighting going on.
Well, that's what the bunny knew would be the best thing to do.
because I'm watching them unpack the Easter basket, and there's a toothbrush in there, different colors, but the same exact toothbrush.
Bubbles, kites.
There's a bubble gun thing.
Yep.
There's like a golf set, like all this stuff and books and everything. And and I'm like, and I said to the dad, I'm like, do they get the same?
bunny,
he said, oh yeah. He said
bunny.
it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bunny thing.
And then I witnessed the two of them try to play with this. It's like a slide. It looks like, remember the old garage, the little people garage thing with the parking ramp, and it had the thing it looks like that, but it's for balls. And you put the ball in the slide, and it goes down, and it gets into the thing, and then it shoots out the middle, like it pops up into the air. And they're just fascinated by these things. And I'm watching them having a blast. And then they did their Easter egg hunt, and we were there for a little while, then we bolted. But you had an Easter egg hunt at your place with your people?
Well, we did. It was at my girlfriend's house. She always has Easter Eve at her house. So we have these bonnets that we've made every year. We just add to them, so they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
More outrageous.
Yeah, which is great. So we have those, and then we did an Easter egg hunt. So those were fun because there was a mixture of candy, money, and booze.
Ooh.
So everybody was excited about that.
I bet.
And then we did egg toss. And
How'd
my
that
husband
go?
and I, we lasted pretty long.
Were you using raw eggs, or were you using
hard-boiled eggs?
Right.
But take a step back every time, right? And teams are eliminated. We were very much in the running at the end, but the egg went up and it went right through the center of the sun. You know what I mean? And then the last track of it, and so we were out. But and then we do a spoon. You hold the egg on a spoon race. Do that one. Let's see, what else did we do? That might have been it. And then we played a song game where the two teams, it was
cards and songs,
cards and words and songs. You have to grab the microphone and try to sing first. And then yesterday there was baskets at our house, of course.
Easter ham and scalloped potatoes and carrots and mushrooms and all that stuff, and
a small appliance fire.
Oh,
a small appliance.
At your house or at Lori's?
No, at my house yesterday.
What appliance?
I went to plug the crock pot in to put the ham in.
Shorted out the outlet?
Sparks and the whole thing.
That happened to us when we first moved into our house.
I screamed, and my husband came running upstairs, and I thought I permanently burnt the countertop because this huge black streak thing was across the thing, sparks and the whole thing, and and I'm like, ah! Came up. It turned out that underneath, because we got it out right away, and the cord had been like bent or frayed where it went into the crock pot, but I
had no idea because you
idea.
don't flip it upside down and look at it.
Right. So a quick trip to go get another crock pot, and now we got to figure out what's going on with that outlet today because it fried the outlet.
Yeah. Did you go down and trip the breaker?
It wasn't a breaker. It's but it's small little scare the hell out of me.
This is a really cool Easter egg hunt that maybe a lot of people wouldn't think about. But when you have a first responder with a daughter who's visually impaired, you can see why. The Orlando Bomb Squad did an Easter egg hunt for visually impaired kids. They built special eggs that make a beeping sound so the kids could find them.
Super cool.
He started this program out with the love of his knowledge of being a bomb tech for the ATF. Built these Easter eggs, kind of like we do for the Bomb Squad. They're made of simple electronics. We put them inside an egg, and we made them audible by a beeping sound so the visually impaired children can have the same holiday experience as a sighted child.
How cool is that? Orlando Fire, Arson, and Bomb Squad hosting an inclusive Easter egg hunt this weekend for visually impaired children. OFD first responders designing special Easter eggs that beeped to ensure the kids with visual impairments could participate in the holiday tradition. It was inspired by a first responder whose daughter is also visually impaired. Children of all ages attending the event, enjoying the exclusive Easter egg scavenger hunt.
A way for them to be part of it. That's great.
Very cool. Very cool. We've got Wage War in a couple of minutes and some 6 a.m. I got a text from someone who said you need Real ID to access your IRS account. They said it's because if I wouldn't have had a new driver's license, I wouldn't have been able to pay my taxes online. So, yeah, they're just going to make it harder and harder for people to not have a real ID, and then you'll be forced to get one. Mm-hmm. That's how the government likes to do things, force you into it. So they start out with the couple little things, the flying and all that crap, and then they start putting
and
their
federal buildings, it sounds like. If you don't go into
certain federal buildings, it said I didn't do a dive on that, but anyways, Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. We'll get to that wage war in a bit.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find the daily podcast at rockmornings.com.
How many people officially live in your house right now? 4? 3?
3, but it will be 4 very soon. And actually, for a short amount of time, it'll be 5. But again.
So there was 5, and then you were down to 3, and now you're going back to 5.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I moved back home once after all the crap that happened with me. I was able to move home one time after I had been out, but
happens.
Yeah. So you're going to have 5 human beings living in your house. How many screens do you think you'll have when you have 5 people living
so
under
we're talking about everything.
All the thing, anything that's got a screen.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and another 5 for phones, so 12. I'd say 13.
13? There's a mom on TikTok who's going viral.
Maybe 14.
After counting up all the different gadgets that have screens that her family has.
Uh-oh.
It's her and her husband and 4 kids, 2, 5, 7, and 10.
My 2-year-old's iPad, my 5-year-old's iPad and his AAC, my 7-year-old's iPad, my 10-year-old's iPad and his iPhone, my iPad, my iPhone, and my Switch, and my watch, and my MacBook, my husband's iPad, my husband's iPhone, and his watch. Each of the 2 older boys have a PS5. My husband has an Xbox Series X and a PC. We have 9 TVs throughout the entire house.
Holy moly.
And the only time we limit screen time is Monday through Thursday.
I kind of got mad listening to her talk. It seems like you have zero control. Each of the older boys has their own PS5.
I guess I'm not.
I mean, whatever.
It sounds like a lot.
They can obviously afford it. That's a lot of stuff, though.
It is a lot of stuff. 9 TVs is a lot.
She counted everything with a screen. TVs all the way down to Apple Watches. Her grand total was 24 screens, 24.
Yeah, I didn't count my daughter's Apple Watch, so I mean, I guess maybe I'm up to 15. But I'm counting, some sort of
phones,
laptop or MacBook
tablet.
for school for all 3 of them, and then phones for all 3, and then us with my husband has 2 screens for work because he's got the split screen. I got my laptop. We've got 2 televisions, and everybody's got a phone. It adds up pretty quickly.
9 televisions in the house. Both adults and all 4 kids have their own iPad, so that's 6. Even a 2-year-old has its own iPad, which, whatever. I've seen children younger than 2 having an iPad.
Yeah.
It's just an easy way to babysit your kids. 5-year-old has a second one for speech therapy, so 7 total tablets to go along with the 9 televisions.
That's a lot.
2 Apple Watches, 2 computers, 3 iPhones, a Nintendo Switch, a total of 24 different screens, an average of 4 per person.
It's a lot.
And the only limiting of screen time is Monday through Thursday. After that, it's
that's a real
Thunderdome, baby.
That's not exactly how I tried to go about it, but I certainly understand. The girls shared.
We each have a phone. And I'm not going to count like the old phones that may be in the house that we don't use.
Just get rid of those.
They're in
Turn
a drawer
those in,
somewhere,
donate those.
But you know what I mean? Like they may have screens, but they're not getting used. They're just in a drawer somewhere. So we each have a phone. There's 2 of us. There is a television in a bedroom, our bedroom, in the guest bedroom upstairs, and in the living room. So that's 5 screens. And then there's also a TV downstairs in the family room or living room or whatever you want to call it. So that's 6. I have a laptop. I know my wife has a laptop. I think she might have a second laptop because she has a work thing. So there's another 2 or 3.
It's 9.
So we're up to 8 or 9, somewhere in that vicinity.
Doesn't she have a Kindle too?
She's got some kind of tablet thing, and but I never see her use it.
Yeah.
I mean, she prefers the old standard, hardcover, softcover books, rather than something with a screen when she's reading. But I know there's a tablet in there somewhere, but again, never getting used. So maybe 10 between the two of us, 10 total screens.
And they got 6 people in their house.
Yeah.
So it just, it's a lot.
How many screens do you have in your home? The whole rattling off iPads for every single person in the house is crazy to me. You know,
it was a lot.
A whole I family.
They shared that.
They're the I family,
and we didn't do phones until they turned 14. But it's getting difficult for that.
My 2-year-old's phone and iPad and Apple Watch. I suppose though, if you want to keep track of your kids and whatever their activity is, you get all the same stuff, and you get you keep all the passwords for yourself and.
Well, you can limit. There's all sorts of programs that'll let you shut things off and turn them down. And
I think I told you this story, but I don't know if I've said it on the air, but we have friends that have kids, and when the kids were younger, 2 boys, they were going to a hotel for a hockey tournament, and the kid was having trouble with their tablet logging into the Wi-Fi. So Dad took the tablet and said, I'll figure it out. And apparently had never policed the activity on the tablet until this hotel trip. Opened up and looking around, just after attaching to a Wi-Fi signal.
Looked at the browsing history and was like, okay.
No, found a folder that was called Boobies, and opened up the folder, and there was 100 more folders that all said boobies, and they were all full of pictures of boobies from the internet. And this kid was 8-9 years old, so he was just. Every picture he saw of boobies, he must have been just right-click, save as, right-click, and had hundreds of folders of boobies, inside of a dominant folder that was also entitled boobies. Yeah,
these are my subfolders.
Yeah, these are my boobie subfolders. Are they arranged in any sort of way, or is it just once the folder gets 100 in it?
Dad did not want to know. He's just
And what do you do? I mean, you just you laugh.
Well, we're gonna have to have a conversation.
Maybe have a conversation. Yeah. Wage Ward's Blur.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Weekdays, 6 to 9.
6 a.m. Life is beautiful. Rock Mornings, Brian and Gene. Brew Crew with 2 out of 3 against the A's this weekend. Beat them on Friday 5-3. Lost on Saturday 3-1. Then beat them 14-1 yesterday, and they stole a whole crap ton of bases.
Did. Set some records, didn't they?
Yeah. Brew Crew now on the road for 10. They start with 4 games in San Fran against the Giants tonight, 8:45 on the MLB Network. Bucks, of course, losing to the Pacers on Saturday in Game 1 of that series. 117-98 final score there. Game 2 will be tomorrow night for the Bucks in Indiana. That'll be at 6 p.m. tomorrow night on NBA TV. Tonight in the NBA, you got Detroit at New York, 6:30 on TNT and True TV. That's Game 2 of that series. Knicks are up 1-0. Then you got Clippers at Nuggets, 9 p.m., also on TNT and True TV for Game 2 of that series. Denver up 1-0. Over in the NHL, Canadiens Capitals, 6 o'clock on ESPN for Game 1. Blues Jets, Game 2 of that series at 6:30 on ESPN 2. Colorado and Dallas, 8:30 on ESPN, Game 2 of that series. And then finally Edmonton at LA, 9 p.m. on ESPN 2 for Game 1 of that series. ESPN and ABC will air all 3 days of the 2025 NFL Draft. Live from Green Bay this week. Round 1 will be on Thursday, 7 o'clock our time. Rounds 2 and 3 start on Friday at 6 p.m. our time. And then rounds 4 through 7 are on Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. our time.
Big week.
Yeah.
Talking to my husband about that yesterday. I'm like, man, oh man.
Final preparations being made. Yeah. Tessa Janecki scoring in overtime as the U.S. prevailed over the defending champion Canada 4-3 to win the Women's Ice Hockey World Championships yesterday. Janecki struck with about 3 minutes left in overtime for the Americans to claim their 11th title at the World. So congratulations to the U.S. ladies on the ice for bringing home the trophy where it belongs. Got the latest from Hinder in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find them online at rockmornings.com.
Take this job and shove it.
Guess what?
What?
Ain't working here no more.
Wow. I will still be working here unless I win the lottery.
Yes.
But would you say that your job has meaning? or is your job a means to an end?
My job has meaning.
Recent poll found that most Americans do feel like their job has meaning, with 62% of people saying yes, 18% say they're not sure, and 20% feel like they're just keeping the chair warm.
Mm-hmm. Well, it obviously very vastly depends on what you're doing for that job.
College grads more likely to think their job makes a difference. So were people with classic office jobs that involve meetings and emails, which is interesting. You think that those jobs would be like, ugh, this job is not making any difference. If your job doesn't involve those types of things, there's a 31% chance you feel like you're just spinning your wheels to earn a paycheck. Feels backwards to me.
That many people feel like there's meaning?
No, well, I get the college grads were a little more likely to think that their job does make a difference. You're young, you have hope, you haven't really been in the real world for a very long time. Right? Maybe it's a new job, something that you feel excited about. Maybe it's something you went to school for 4 years and you first
studied for it. And
right.
It's, I mean, think about,
But the second part of that equation, where it says, so were people with classic office jobs that involve meetings and emails. I feel like if I had one of those kind of jobs, I would not feel like my job had meaning.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it depends on, you could have, for instance, you could be involved in the healthcare industry or education or, administration at a city hall that has EMTs and firefighters and all that. And you could be running the office in those facilities and working there with paperwork and, HR and all the things and have meetings about it and know that you play a role in these important things that happen for your community. So I get it. Serving people, serving the community, serving, having to deal with all the public, those kinds of things obviously probably make you feel like you have more meaning, making a difference in some way.
Yeah.
Adult animals. It could go on and on. My list could go on and on.
62%, again, of people in this poll say they think their job is not them as a human being, but the job itself and them doing it, obviously, is making a meaningful contribution to the world.
I'll tell you what, that whole crew that's trying to get 16 resurfaced and done and those bridges fixed and get that road construction project done, that is a massive undertaking. And doing it this summer, I'm sure they feel like they have meaning. That is, it matters.
And especially when the finished project comes to fruition and you get to drive over and you're like, yeah, Dad worked on that.
Barge traffic, getting supplies from one place to another, that's important stuff. Farmers, making sure that they're growing what we need, that's important stuff. So I can see how all of those things you feel like you have meaning.
62% of people think that their job is meaningful.
I could go on and on and on, right? Mechanics keeping cars and fleets on the road.
Mm-hmm. It's tough to look at it that way, though. Obviously, the ridiculous situations you can find yourself in when it comes to work and the bosses and the just the daily in and out of everything that happens.
People that are working in a kitchen, making sure that their residents or their students or whatever are getting fed and nutritious meals.
Well, and 99% of the time, the comments, not necessarily online, but
certainly don't make you feel valid.
It's a negative. Yeah. You're not going to hear people rant and rave and go crazy about how awesome it is.
Right.
They're going to come in, they're going to eat their dinner, they're going to leave, and that's it. But if there's a bad thing that happened, then you're going to hear all about it, and it's going to be a major meltdown here.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a hair in the food or if it's undercooked, whatever that might be. But if they have the best meal of their life, they may go home and tell their friends about it, and that's awesome or whatever, but they're not coming back to the kitchen to be like, yo, dude.
Yeah, my mom's like that, because it's super important that she eats 3 meals a day and keeping her healthy, and she's not able to do that anymore. So it's a social time too, all of those things. But, we had this again. I don't know what their deal is with carrots. They must have gotten some deal on carrots. That's all we ever get is carrots as a vegetable. I'm so sick of carrots.
Wow.
She does that too.
Carrots, huh?
Or whatever. Insert whatever. So you're right.
Well, and when
that's a
that
human
is
tendency, right?
But think of how important meal time is for your mom, right? It is probably much like, no offense, I'm not trying to make a comparison.
Social,
much like my dogs, it's the best part of their day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, the food, the thing I love the most.
Yes, going down and eating with everybody and having these nutritious meals.
Social time and getting out of your room.
Yeah.
Seeing the light of day, other people, talking to people, all that stuff.
But to your point, I don't know how often she says thank you for the delicious chocolate cake. It's
right, you go in there and be like, God damn it, those carrots, I'm so sick of them, but this cake thing is really right up my alley. Yeah, so I can see why you would think your job is meaningless when you get all the negative stuff and you don't get a lot of positive.
Right. But it is.
62% of people think their job is meaningless. Or not meaningless, excuse me, has meaning. Yeah. I don't know. There's times, you run into people.
Well, of course, there's always
you get
times
a nice
for
email,
everybody, but
try to hold on to those. I find that for me personally, when it's someone that doesn't work in our building but is in our industry because it's unique and it's shrinking all the time, there's less and less people doing what we do. When you get a compliment from someone like that, I would say a colleague or not a coworker, but someone that you...
in the business.
Yeah. And they compliment you on something that is direct towards what you do outside of what people know about. Because there's a lot of this job we're like ducks. On the top of the water, everything's cool, right? We're just swimming along. You see the duck, everything's nice. Underneath, the feet are just going like this, like crazy, right? There's so many things that people don't know about that happen. And not that we're,
like everybody's,
saving the world.
like everybody's.
But when you get a compliment from someone that works in your industry about something that they would know about that most people don't, that to me reaffirms that, okay, I'm doing a good job. Those are few and far behind, or between, by the way. Those don't happen very often. But it's amazing how far a compliment can go, though. You know what I mean?
I'm going to tell my mom that about the cake. Maybe she can say something nice today.
Look, just give her a couple days, all right? Just all the focus is on her. Don't worry about that cake. They'll figure it out. Bad Wolves now.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. More from Brian and Gene is coming up.
Bad Wolves on Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Got a text from Cheryl. Said, we each have a phone. There's 2 TVs in the house. There's a laptop and a desktop. Total of 7 for the 3 of us. It's economical compared to our numbers. Also got an email from Doug. I don't want to get into a whole thing on this, but Doug said, did someone say they need a real ID to access irs.gov? Doug continues and says, I don't think that is true. The IRS uses a process called ID.me. If memory serves me, it's similar to what I did to set up an online account with FEMA. Facial recognition is used, but I don't believe one needs a real ID. If you have time, please play anything by Rage Against the Machine. I did a quick Google, and I think maybe the person who texted in earlier has things confused.
Sure.
We were talking about Real ID much earlier in the program because May 7th is the deadline.
So a couple of weeks.
You can still get one after May 7th, but that's when they start requiring them for travel on domestic flights.
Domestic flights and then some military bases, federal buildings.
We had a person that texted in after we were talking about Real ID because I didn't quite understand what federal stuff that meant. They said you need a Real ID to access your IRS accounts because if I wouldn't have had a new driver's license, I wouldn't have been able to pay my taxes online. Well, I quickly Googled, and Doug appears to be correct, but again, I don't know for a fact. The website that I went to says the IRS works with ID.me, a technology provider to provide authentication and identity verification for taxpayers and tax professionals using IRS or accessing IRS applications. So I don't know if ID.me now requires you to have a real ID, and that's the case.
You only need a real ID if you plan to fly within the U.S., visit to a military base or other federal buildings. You are not required to get a real ID. It's optional
for now.
If you do not apply for that, your current driver's license or ID status remains unchanged, obviously, until the expiration date. So it's about domestic travel and whether you need to go to federal buildings or military bases. Those kinds of things are going to require it.
Yeah. Again, not trying to get into a back and forth here, but I don't know all the stuff behind the Real ID. It just, from what I read, it's mostly for domestic flights. And that, again, starts May 7th. Bad News, Happy Music is coming up a bit later on. Also, our daily check-ins. We'll read some more emails and text messages. We'll get to the friggin' sports. And we'll get to some Stone Temple Pilots next.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find them online at rockmornings.com.
Oh, what's going on?
WrestleMania 41 in the books, and John Cena has now won the title 17 times, surpassing Ric Flair for the all-time amount of titles held, I guess. I don't know what.
But still bad guy?
Yeah.
Bad guy?
I don't know. I never bought the Cena heel turn. I just didn't. It just doesn't ring for me. That bell does not ring for me. If it had been like Hogan, and he did it sort of in like the latter years of his career, but still had some gas in the tank. But Cena basically said, like, I'm not wrestling anymore after this. This is it. I'm
last
done.
year.
Right. And so, you got to assume he's going to turn back to a face towards the end, right? Because you don't retire the heel after you've been the face and the face for all these years, right? I still have a hard time buying him as a heel. It doesn't work for me for whatever reason. I don't know. I just never got into it. But
he was the champion, though, huh?
But he was the champion. He beat Cody Rhodes last night, night 2 of WrestleMania. There was a lot going on. Obviously, it was a massive undertaking in Vegas. They had a cool scene yesterday with Dana White doing the intro, reading about Vegas and where it actually is, and the Strip, and the lights, and the people, and all the stuff. I thought that intro was cool. There was this Stone Cold Steve Austin. Lately, he likes to ride an ATV down to the ring, like down the ramp and then around the ring.
Okay.
And this time around, he lost control of it a little bit, and it smashed into one of like the guardrails that are between where the ring access is, or where the ring area is, and where the fans are. And some lady fell down like she got hit by a semi-truck. It was actually pretty funny.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. There was a ton of wrestling, obviously. I believe 6 belts changed hands over the course of the weekend. Jey Uso in night 1 defeating Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. The New Day beat the War Raiders for the World Tag Team Championships. Jacob Fatu defeating LA Knight for the U.S. Championship. That's night 1. But the WWE Women's Championship was defended by Tiffany Stratton. She took care of Charlotte Flair. In the big main event on the first night, obviously we saw the triple threat match. CM Punk beating Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins with the big turn by Heyman, turning his back on both Roman Reigns and CM Punk to be with Seth Rollins.
Wow, this was at a huge stadium, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's massive. It's massive.
Wow.
Io Sky somehow holding on to her title, beating Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair in night 2 for the Women's World Championship. The Sin City street fight was okay between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. The cool part, I think, was Damian Priest had Kerry King from Slayer playing his intro as he came out. A lot of fire and stuff.
That's cool.
I felt like they had audio issues, though. It didn't sound right. Something sounded off with his guitar. It just, I don't know, maybe it was my TV or my feed or whatever, but it didn't sound like it was clear. It sounded like there was some sort of misconnection with the wires or something. Dominic Mysterio getting the win in the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship, and people who hate his guts were cheering for him as he left the ring, and then he ran back down and got a good pop from the crowd. Randy Orton beating this Joe Hendry guy. I don't get it. There's a guy named Joe Hendry, and he showed up. He's a TNA champ, and he came out to face Randy. I don't get his gimmick. I don't understand the guy. He's such a dork. It doesn't work for me.
He's supposed to be a bad guy?
I don't know what the hell he's supposed to be. Honestly, I don't know. I know almost nothing about the guy. But his entry song stinks, and his gimmick stinks. I don't like any of it. I watched it, and I'm like, what the hell is it? Why? How did this guy even get into a ring? It makes no sense to me. He does this thing where, he makes the crowd get loud, and then he does this, weird, thing with his arms, and then he turns around and does this. And the crowd, I don't know why people like it. It's so dumb to me. I watched it happen 3 or 4 times last night in the midst of the match, and I was like...
what's happening?
Yeah.
So tickets ranged from about $330 all the way up to $22,000 per seat, whether you went for one night or 3 nights or the whole weekend.
A lot of celebrities there. Saw, they had George Kittle was there. They had Daniel Cormier was there. Obviously, UFC fighters were there. A bunch of rappers that I didn't know who the hell they were. Our buddy Gunner. His friend Chow, who is Corey Taylor's personal photographer.
He was there?
I saw him standing behind Daniel Cormier, and I texted Gunner, and I said, hey, I saw your buddy Chow. And he said, yeah, he's down there with Corey Taylor. They were there all weekend, and I saw, Gunner said he saw him there a bunch of times in night one, and he told him to move because he kept distracting him.
Yeah, 1 night pass, 2 night passes. They had parking and hotel accommodations. I mean, expensive weekend, but... If you're a fan, you were right there for the whole thing.
Yeah, WrestleMania 41. The one thing I did not stay up and check this out, but I want to watch it because Kill Tony. Do you know who Kill Tony is?
No. Do I? It's
after Pat McAfee and Joe Rogan. It's probably the 3rd most popular podcast in the world. It's like a comedy podcast.
Okay.
Where they have a setup at a club. I think it's in Austin, Texas. And they have a bucket with a bunch of comedians that are there to try and do a set. And they pull your name out, and you got to come out onto the stage. And they have regulars, and Shane Gillis is on the panel with this guy, and there's a lot of regular recurring characters. Anyways, he just had a Netflix special that just came out. So he was doing a roast of WrestleMania after WrestleMania was over, and apparently some of the wrestlers and people were coming by.
Came to that too.
So I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I'm going to look for it online today and check that out. The Kill Tony roast of WrestleMania. Should be good. Tony Hinchcliffe.
About 65,000 people in attendance.
Oh, it was... Well, when you see it's like such an undertaking. It's unbelievable. I did feel like... This time around with WrestleMania, there wasn't as many... WrestleMania used to be kind of known for people kind of showing up out of the blue and interrupting matches and...
Surprises.
Yeah, and it felt like there weren't as many this time around.
Surprises.
Yeah.
Big weekend.
41.
Big weekend.
Oh, I'm sure they made money hand over fist.
Yeah, one of our employees, like I told you, him and his sons had matching shirts. They were getting it on.
Yeah. And, of course, in the big main event, John Cena beating Cody Rhodes, win his record 17th WWE title.
Undisputed champ.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. We're going to get to bad news, happy music in just a bit. Also got some Shine Down in a few minutes. Right now, it's falling in reverse.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Start your day with Rock Mornings.
A beautiful, exciting, wonderful new world.
A cockroach living in your nostril.
Now that's just nasty.
Add in some haven't pooped for 30 days.
Poop is raining from the ceilings. Poop.
And sprinkle in some hashtag Florida Man for flavor.
Florida Man.
Florida Man.
Florida Man. Florida Man. Florida Man.
Florida Man.
Florida Man quits his Burger King job, steals all of their chicken nuggets.
It's bad news.
Bad news.
With happy music.
Let's rock.
There was a farmer, had a name, and bingo, what was it? Had a dog?
Had a dog.
Farmer had a dog, and bingo was his name?
Yes, B-I-N-G-O.
B-I-N-G-O?
B-I-N-G-O.
And bingo was his name-o?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, it's been a while since I sang that one. Was a farmer, had a dog, and bingo was his name-o. B-I-N-G-O. B-I.
But then you got
and then you take away a letter.
Yes.
And what's the point of taking the letter away?
I think it's just to teach kids about letters and spelling and how to spell things.
It's like 99 bottles, and then we take one away, and next thing you know, you got 98 bottles.
We're missing the O, right? Because it's at the end. Bingo.
Well, these cops were not playing Bingo Had a Name-O. They were playing Criminal Bingo. This is in Bozeman, Montana.
Like they were illegally gambling on bingo?
3 police officers in Montana caught playing a so-called crime bingo while on duty. They made their own bingo cards.
So like
with their own blotters.
Robbery.
Filling in squares for things like do a search warrant on a car.
2 teams of patrol officers were engaged in a bingo competition where success in the game hinged on whether they engaged in actions listed on the bingo card. Then they filled in squares of things that they wanted to see happen or have happen in order to check off that box in the bingo card. So an example of one of those was to do a search warrant on a car, which in and of itself, that is part of their duties. The concern is if they manipulated anything in order to be able to search a car.
Now, the bingo card they have on the news story as an example has 2 hat tricks per team per night. A hat trick generally means 3, right? 3 goals. One of the squares says over 0.30 blood alcohol content on a DUI. 2 on team and vehicle pursuit. Drug DUI. DUI past 2 o'clock. Apply to or chest seal, whatever that means. Lowest MPAT average team. 50K in warrants per team in a week.
Okay, that's stuff where you're really going to have
SRT call out while on shift. Successful canine track. Again, some officers in Bozeman, Montana, apparently doing their own version of bingo with DIY cards that they're traveling around with.
Now, I kind of appreciate the effort to some degree, but, like if we were to make one of stuff that could happen, but in order to, you're potentially setting people up in very bad ways to get your next square,
Lowest team score on a physical fitness test, putting out a fire before the Bozeman Fire Department arrived. But one category that concerned the police chief was the types of arrests or calls that officers wanted to handle.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes you think that they're not going to go to the calls they get because they're not on their bingo card. An example of one of those was to do a search warrant on a car, which in and of itself is one of their duties. The concern is if they manipulated anything in order to be able to search the car.
Sure. I wouldn't normally do it in this situation, but I'm going to put you
But I
in
needed to get a line on what's the prize? What do you get when you get a bingo?
But it does sound that
bingo.
Maybe there was, it seems like there was a lot of room for them to be doing some shady stuff.
We conducted our own internal investigation, and then after that, the city attorney's office conducted their own review. The Division of Criminal Investigation, not involved, but an external attorney, was also contracted, who reviewed all 24 cases that took place during the bingo time period and concluded the same that 0 of the cases had been affected by the game. Although he says there were 0 affected cases, the chief of police tells me there are some disciplinary actions taking place.
I would imagine.
You got to hide it better. You can't, look, I get it, right? Especially overnights. Boring. Maybe not a lot of stuff going on. You want to try to spice things up. These are crimes that maybe are things that happen on a regular basis. You put them on the card, you're not. But you got to hide it better. You can't let the chief of police find out. You can't let anybody above you find out.
They have to do things now about that. And did you manipulate anything to have the situation happen?
Right. That's the real concern. A woman in Canada says that she is at her wit's end because squirrels keep wrecking her car.
The electrical was off, so we got into the driveway safely, opened it, and sure enough, the squirrels had been in. It was ongoing with that car until it got to the point where the mechanic said, get rid of it. They make a disastrous mess. They chew the wires. They put in leaves, branches, you name it.
This poor lady.
Laura Edwards.
So they kept attacking her car?
Posting the video of squirrels scurrying around and under her 2024 Chevrolet Traverse SUV. Says the squirrels would constantly build nests in her car's engine compartment, chewing through the wires and other critical car parts. When she would start to drive the SUV, it would start to malfunction. Frustrated because she used to own a 2020 Chevrolet Traverse, which the squirrels had also gotten into. Maybe don't buy a Chevy Traverse anymore. Try something else. Is there an Equinox you can get or a
How
Trailblazer?
about some squirrel traps or dogs or something?
She says it got so bad that her repair shop told her she would be better off without the vehicle.
That's bad.
Edwards hoped that the new vehicle wouldn't have the same issue, and for about a year it did not. But then it started all over again. The squirrels came back. They said, hey, let's get while the getting's good and go back to her house.
New car over here with Rhonda. Rhonda's got a new car. Let's go.
Hey, just get a little BB gun.
I take it she doesn't have a garage. She's parking outside.
Every time you see one, you just pop them.
That's what I'm saying. Some sort of trap. Poison. Dogs. Something.
I got to do, I might have to do that with the squirrel on our bird feeder. We had one that was on the bird feeder like all day yesterday. And he tries to shoo away the birds when they get near it. So I may have to get a pellet gun or something. And
does Remy care about him?
They'll run off, but he's, the bird feeder's up in the air. He's, yeah. Bad news, happy music. A man named Daniel Lanks arrested and charged with felony aggravated assault after allegedly ripping a stranger's eye out of its socket in Phoenix, Arizona.
Why?
Also punched the unidentified victim several times, fracturing this person's jaw.
Jesus.
This occurred last Monday. Lanks taken to the jail, being held on a $500,000 cash bond. The other man recovering after an unprovoked attack left him without an eye.
What happened? What in the hell?
The unnamed Arizona man walking down a Phoenix street near a shop.
So just walking down the street.
Victim told police that he passed a man outside, later identified as 38-year-old Daniel Lanks, and said, "How are you doing?" Lanks, who the outlets, the stores there, reported had just been released from jail in a separate case 2 days earlier, then allegedly told the man he would whoop his ass. The man kept walking, but Lanks came up from behind him, stuck his fingers into the man's right eye socket, and then pulled it out. Victim falling to the ground, Lanks allegedly punching him in the face several times. The man immediately went home, and his girlfriend called 911. Medical personnel discovered that he had a fractured jaw.
Went home?
When the police arrived to the man's house, they asked him to remove a towel he was holding onto his face, and they quickly realized that his eyeball was dangling from its socket.
Are you able to put that back in?
Later in the day, the police found Lanks, the assailant, in the lobby of a healthcare office, and he was arrested. Reportedly told officers to shut the F up.
Yeah.
And that he didn't understand his Miranda rights. 3 days later, the victim, with his one good eye, identified Lanks in a lineup. Victim telling police that his life was dramatically altered by this assault, stating that his loss of the use of his right eye and his fractured jaw will forever impact his quality of life.
Yeah.
Unsure if he'll ever be able to work again or perform basic life functions. Can you imagine you're just walking down the street and some lunatic jumps on your back?
Just say hi to
some
somebody.
Some lunatic
you're passing?
jumps on your back and grabs your right eye and pops it out?
No. 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 I don't want to.
Last but not least, we'll end on a better
more? Okay.
We'll end on a better note.
All right.
We'll end on a better note. A little bit better than that one. I don't know if this guy was trying to destroy evidence in his backyard But he's got a whole nother world of problems now. After a man in New York admitted to setting fire to several of his sex toys in the backyard. That started a 3-alarm fire which damaged 3 homes and several vehicles. Apparently couldn't keep his sex toys.
The fire was raging.
From turning into a bonfire. 37-year-old arsonist is a guy named Harry Torres.
He just didn't want to put them in a garbage can, just bundle them up in a bag and throw them away.
Told investigators, quote, I started the fire. I was in the backyard at my house. I lit 2 sex toys on fire.
Yeah! Look what I have created! I have made fire!
Just 2, huh?
The fire spread to the back of his home before stretching to his neighbors' houses and cars.
Wow, this really was a big blaze.
A New York City Fire Department deputy assistant chief named David Sims said this was a heavy, deep-seated fire that necessitated the use of 3 alarms. The news outlet reporting that one of the 2 sex toys was a rubber vagina.
Did it roll away or just...
But that the other sex toy that he burned was unidentified. No word yet what he was burning.
Is that a dong on its own?
No, it's a rubber vagina and a fire.
Yeah, it is.
Whole different thing. Whole different thing, but yeah.
What do you think it could be that would really go like that?
Well, I'm guessing he used an accelerant.
Yeah.
Gasoline or...
I mean, for the smell and that kind of
Something.
stuff I could see, but like to...
My guess, wife, mom, female of the house, whoever that might be, found said sex toys.
Said get rid of those.
Now, mind you, this is a 37-year-old man.
Mind you, I'm watching him get arrested in a robe.
So my guess is that someone found the sex toys and he was trying to destroy the evidence.
Burn it right now. You go out there and you take care of this right now.
I don't want your rubber vagina in my house.
Yeah.
Or in my dishwasher, which is where a lot of people apparently wash those things.
But, yeah, it looks like he was
and he decided that the best way to get rid of them was to burn them in the backyard and probably throw some lighter fluid or gasoline on there. And it got out of control, and it lit his house on fire, and then several houses and vehicles as well.
Erotic inferno.
Very erotic. Fire can be erotic, you know. A lot of people, they get turned on by fire.
He literally... Soft-spoken, apparently, in a blue robe and slippers that he was arrested in.
You think it had a name?
He went out to...
You think his rubber vagina had a name?
It's very melty now.
Maybe he was just done with it. Maybe it was, you know, like...
Time to move on.
Had his fun with it, and it was time to say goodbye. Like a Viking funeral.
That's what it was like.
That's what he was doing out there. Maybe he shot a burning arrow at it from his back porch in his robe. You know? Sending it to Valhalla.
Maybe he was.
The vagina of Valhalla. The rubber vagina of Valhalla. Right, there was probably some music playing. You know, some drums, drums in the woods.
And all of a sudden, neighbors are screaming, people are crying.
Next thing you know, houses are burning down. I was just trying to send my vagina to Valhalla.
Look at me, I'm in my robe and slippers.
Do you want to go inside that house as a cop and be like, we need to investigate what else is in here?
I don't want to do any of that. Yeah, he did use some lighter fluid.
Yeah, not surprising. Bad news, happy music on Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene.
Oh, he really burned those cars up, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he did.
Rock Mornings with Brian and Gene. Find the daily podcast at rockmornings.com. Call.
Hello.
Email.
I tried emailing you.
Text. So many ways to check in with us.
Check.
We rely on you guys for traffic updates, requests, and all sorts of other stuff.
Check this out.
rockmornings.com. Hit the website for all of our contact info. Listen to the show live, daily podcast, all that right there online at rockmornings.com. Got a message on Facebook from my guy TJ earlier. Said, love is digging in the garbage for a scratch-off winner when your wife throws it away. Coffee grounds and trash all mixed in.
I did that with tickets to a concert.
Oh, he threw away the tickets on accident?
Yeah.
What's the minimum
and we
amount?
dug through a lot of garbage.
What's the minimum amount for a lottery ticket? Scratcher or otherwise?
That I'm digging through the garbage for?
Yeah.
I'm not digging very far for less than $10.
So $10 or over?
Top, I'd look at the top because I've looked for homework and missed papers and stuff. But I'm telling, like, we were going to go. We were leaving to go.
Dump it out.
We had to go, and eventually we went through all of our garbage, and then we realized that I had gone and, like, cleaned out the car. So then we went to, like, the car wash and looked through their garbage for concert tickets. So I feel ya. That is love.
Yeah, I would say $10 or more would be.
It was farm aid tickets, and they were it was when they were there, American or Miller Park.
Cougar.
Yeah.
Marnie texted in and said, "Dude, I almost threw up listening to that story." Eyeball.
Yeah, I know.
Eyeball stuff.
Stranger just walks up and attacks you and rips your eyeball out. What I didn't understand was the going home. I'm like screaming until somebody calls 911, aren't you? Like getting up and going home so your girlfriend can be with it?
If someone's going to poke your eye out and fracture your jaw, I'm getting up and running. I'm trying to get away as fast as I can.
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, cops and all that stuff, but like, I want to get the hell away from whatever's going on. I want to be away from that.
Truth, but I'm just in a storefront or in somewhere. I wouldn't get all the way home, I don't think, with a towel on my eye before I
work an eyeball.
No.
Jamie texted in, said, "Sounds like Super Troopers 3 idea."
The bingo card?
Crime bingo. See, that has potential, right? In a movie where it's satire and it's funny and you're like, oh my God, that's awful.
Yes.
You can't do that in real life, but we could put it in a movie.
Yes.
But in real life, you're like... We were talking about meaningless jobs, whether your job has meaning or not. Chuck actually texted in and said, "I am one of those weird people that call for the manager when someone has done a great job for me.
Nice.
I want them to know when their workers do well."
Good for you. Keep that up.
Cheryl, we were talking about screens in your house. Cheryl said they've got each have a phone, 2 TVs, a laptop, and a desktop.
How many screens are in your house?
Yeah. 7 for the 3 of us. 3 phones, 2 TVs, a laptop, and a desktop.
By the way, the ice bucket challenge that we were talking about, I was talking about how new diagnosis from Grey's Anatomy, Mr. McSteamy, Dr. McSteamy, Eric Dane, just earlier this month. But that apparently is not the revival of the ice bucket challenge. After more than 10 years, it's back, but for a different cause, apparently. Active Minds, a nonprofit carrying the mission of mobilizing youth and young adults for mental health crises and issues across the nation. So mental health condition in their lifetimes, 50% of all Americans in their lifetime.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all the correspondence. Have a great rest of your Monday. We will talk to you tomorrow.